the minutes are not ready yet, so that's the first item on the agenda. And what we will do is defer that till the next meeting. And we had an informal discussion on about the last item on the agenda, which is time for future meeting. What I'd like to do, because sometimes people drop off before the end of the meeting, is while we have perhaps maximum attendance, is to resolve that issue. So there are two problems. One, we tend to meet on the second Thursday every other month. That would be September 14th. But that date is occupied at 6 o'clock by the Water Committee, which has been very active, and they've already set that. I don't want to have them move it. So in the informal discussion, it looked like September 28th might be a good date. When this issue was raised at our May meeting, there were a number of people who seemed to prefer starting the meeting at 6 instead of 5. And so I just open it up to you all. What do you think? You all are here at 5, but what do you think in terms of a starting time?
I'm okay with either. I think 6 might be better for people that want to get a bite in before the meeting. Yeah. And the other point, John, is too, we can always change the Water Committee if we can move that meeting. If you get some pushback on changing, your meeting. That's all.
Wendy, you had your hand up.
As the person who gets a bite at about 7 o'clock, I'd prefer a 5 o'clock meeting because I eat later. But yeah, so it's like the continuation of the work day.
Other thoughts?
I'm flexible.
Yeah, I tend to be with Wendy eating later. I like a 5 o'clock meeting because it's an extension of the workday, but it may be that people who like to start at 6 are not here because we're starting at 5. So they're a constituency not heard from.
Maybe canvass by email, maybe canvass electronically and just ask people to.
I think that's a great suggestion, Wendy. So why don't we rather than moving 2 meetings, why don't we set the meeting for the 28th? That way, Mike, you can meet before us, which has advantages, and you're already set. And we will set the date for the 28th, and we'll just, Amy, when you send out the notice, hold the date on the 28th, we'll offer up a choice for 5 or 6 o'clock and see if there is overwhelming sentiment one way or the other. Okay?
Yeah, I can provide a poll with it, and we can poll people.
Oh, okay. So we'll see if there's a majority. If it ends up a tie, we'll hope it doesn't. All right. So that takes care of that item. It's the 28th. It'll either be 5 or 6, depending on what a majority think. So with that, I was going to do introductions, but I think everyone, Bill, have you been to one of our meetings before, Bill Napolitano?
No, John, I haven't. I just recently retired from Serped, but okay. I'm still bopping around doing a lot of projects down here, and I was really curious because I've always been involved with the MVP portion of it, and I know you have that East Beach report, and I still go down there quite a bit. In fact, I was just down there for a couple of weeks. So
you were involved, Bill, in the original work with Westport. I suppose there's a trivia question. Who was at Serped earlier, you or Jim Whiten? I think you're both involved in Serped before there was a Serped, but you guys can duke it out. Who's been there longer? But I know you helped convene the early work and brainstorming of Westport citizens around resilience. So you're not new to this topic, and certainly not new to Westport.
No.
But I think as people, and so Bill is no stranger, just for purposes of the members of our group. Bill Napolitano is no stranger to Westport or this issue. He's been a tremendous friend of Westport and very knowledgeable. So we are very glad you are here. I don't know how Serped survived. Well, I guess if it survived Steve Smith's retirement, it can survive yours. But that's the definition of resilience, I guess. But
yeah, Helen's doing a good job. So
okay.
Yeah, Helen's great. I second that.
So we'll just welcome Bill. Glad you're with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's keep marching along and engagement and fundraising. Oh no, Michael Burris is going to. He put out a Resilient Westport document outline, and I don't know whether this is something you're thinking of to get us thinking about what our ultimate work product might look like, Michael, but why don't you take it from here? You gave us plenty of time to look at it. You got comments back from a number of folks. So why don't you summarize the intention of what you sent us and what's in it, and then what kind of feedback you got?
Sure. Can you see the little?
We can see it. I don't think we can read it, but we can see it.
Okay. Well.
Is there a way to enlarge it?
Unfortunately, I can. Let's see.
Did you send that out to everyone on the CRC?
I did, yes. Is that a little bit better?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Certainly with the main topic areas. Get down to the fine print, it's maybe a little harder.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, like John said, I circulated this just to, I think that at this point, we need to start getting some organization together behind getting a climate resilience plan together. So I drafted this outline, and the idea behind it is that the plan. Well, actually, I think the idea behind our plan should be that it needs to be an action-oriented plan, and it needs to spell out the CRC's recommendations to the town for future policy making. So I circulated two different outlines for, I guess this would be the working title of the plan, the Resilient Westport Plan. So the first thing I sent out to everyone was this infographic, and it's just it's a suggestion on how to organize the plan document. And so the way I'm suggesting to organize it is around 4 different themes, 4 guiding themes. That's the 4 up top you see there. These would be broad buckets of topic areas that can be used to identify how interdisciplinary a lot of the policy sections really are. I think it's good to recognize that our policy recommendations are going to have many different stakeholders, and it's going to be their impacts will be pretty multifaceted. So then below that,
Michael, why don't you read those? We don't know whether people are reading these on a large screen or trying to read them on a cell phone. So if you could just read those 4 themes.
Yeah, so the 4 themes are preparedness, built environment, wellness, and nature. So those themes would inform 5 different policy areas, which would be natural resources, water, health, land use and infrastructure and safety. And so this section would more or less be a representation of the topics being explored in each subcommittee. I'm not going to read all these topic areas, but for example, under natural resources, you would have agriculture, fishing and shellfish. And then for water, you'd have sea level rise, barrier beaches, saltwater intrusion. For health, you'd have heat and air quality, damage, and mental health. Land use, you'd have historical structures, new development, renewable energy, infrastructure and safety. You'd have storm severity, having an emergency preparedness plan, things like that. Just keep in mind that these topic areas that I listed on this infographic, they're not exhaustive. So some of the boxes here I had to shorten up, so not everything that it's been discussed in each subcommittee is on here. But this is just to give a general idea of how to structure the plan. And so for each topic area, there should be a goal and a series of actions to accomplish that goal. And so the goal is more or less going to be a general outcome that we would like to see accomplished for that topic area. And then the actions will be, the things that the policies that the town actually has to put in place to help reach that outcome. So that's what this is representing. As you can see, at the bottom, the goals and actions, I didn't flesh everything out because that's something that is yet to be developed in each subcommittee. I also have a more detailed plan outline that I can talk about really quickly. But before moving on to that, I think I'll just, open the floor up to general thoughts. Keep in mind that this is just a general guide for how I think we could approach developing this plan. But I do think that the goals and action steps will be really key to helping translate this from being just a plan to having more of a guide to get policies in place for the town. David, you raised your hand.
Well, I would just say after the last week, I think in infrastructure and safety, we had to have some specific reference to 2 dams on the east branch of the West Fork River, both of which are somewhat compromised, especially the Forge Pond Dam. We were told 10 or 15 years ago that it needed substantial work, and Fall River wants to get rid of the plan up at Lake Nokichoke. So I think those dams, if we don't want to repeat what happened in Vermont, in the central Vermont this past week, we ought to at least be looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually, I think that might have been one of the topic areas that I had cut from this infographic just because it didn't fit. Otherwise, the text would have been really small. Bob Daler is on the Infrastructure and Safety Committee, so he's pretty thorough, and he's got those identified as a topic area to look at further.
I don't see any hands up, but I think that first of all, I congratulate you for this because I think, and we'll get to the other committees. The Water Committee under Mike Sullivan's leadership, and Mike has his hand up, I think is the most, the farthest along in terms of developing risks and drivers and actions. And so Mike would start to see, well, how do I fit our work into this context? And there would be adjustments needed. But I think it's helpful to everyone to see how does this fit, how does this subcommittee work, whether it's water or health, any one of them, into the overall framework. And so Michael Burris I think what you're providing is really good, because no matter what subcommittee you're working on, it helps you see, okay, if we do our work in our subcommittee, this is how it fits in to the overall framework. And because every committee, leaves out a bunch of stuff and everything's connected, so you see how it all connects to one another. Michael Sullivan, go ahead.
John, just really quick. I think one of the benefits to having an outline like this is just to make sure that as people are drafting things, that we're having a consistent structure to what's being written.
Yeah, that I was trying to say that. You said it much more concisely than I did. Michael Sullivan.
Yeah, you both said what I was going to offer, and that is that it's helpful, I think, to all the subcommittees to see where we're going. And the only thing I would suggest is, and I know this is thematic and structural, but you might consider including a problem statement that we're trying to do on the water side, and that is to, instead of using these terms loosely and assuming everybody understands what they mean in terms of different matrix measurements and such, it might be helpful to have a problem statement, and that will change obviously as more information becomes available in the developing science of global warming and climate change. It'll change, but as of today, we think we have a problem statement that we could put out there. That's all.
I think that's a great idea. Great suggestion, Michael. We've got lots of Michaels. Is anyone noticing that?
And I do say that, John, because one of the, we have the committee, the outreach and fundraising committee, and half the problem with global warming and all the problems that come from it is an understanding on the part of the public.
Yeah.
And I think if we wrote a document that the public could understand from people that they know, it would help to move that along a little bit.
Yeah. All right, good. Thank you, Michael Sullivan. Michael Yagman.
Well, I think Michael hit exactly what I was going to say, which is targeting who's the audience for this document. And if it's the more general citizenry of Westport, I think that's a big challenge for us to develop the political will to support this. So I guess it harks back to the engagement committee. But so my question was just, what's the audience for this document?
So you guys are like a highly trained dance team, the way you lead into one another. So that leads into Jeff Canton, and lo and behold, he has his hand up. So Jeff.
Okay, so to follow up on that, my question was going to be, what do we think a realistic timeline for this is? Because we're, still in some of the formative stages of, what our findings are from some of these subcommittees, with water being probably further along. If we are trying to go from there to an actual action plan with priorities and goals, that seems like it's going to take even longer. And so my question is, should we be thinking about some kind of interim product that just summarizes, what do we know so far based on the work that these committees have done, or what do we know as of, a certain point when some of the committee work comes to some kind of consensus?
Well, I think that's a really good question, because these committees are moving at different speeds. Like water is moving at 100 miles an hour. Agriculture is moving at the speed of one of the tractors we saw in the parade. So they're different speeds. And there's also, as your committee has raised, the question of, is our work product a report, or, is it a conversation? What form is it? I think, and I don't know the answer to that. That is what your committee is going to engage on. But what I do think is that this outline, and, there may be, as water, and I know Bob Daler's been doing a lot of work on infrastructure. I know health has been doing a lot of work on the health aspects of things. So these committees have been working in different ways in their areas. As they, using this outline, start to organize their thoughts and start to coalesce around this outline. And as as they coalesce, I bet this outline starts to change a little bit, because the outline is going to affect the work of the committees, and the committees are going to affect the outline. They're each going to impact each other. And I think that's going to be a fascinating process to see. Whether this means this is a report, or Jeff, or whether this is the basis of other ways, social media, other things that we use to communicate with people, that's up to your committee. But I think this is going to make it easier for us to go to agriculture and say, this is more defined on what you guys have to do. It may make it easier for us to get help. Anyway, other questions? Jim Whiten.
Yeah, thank you, John. I wanted to, in my mind, this should be a living document. It's always going to be changing, and we're always going to be meeting and trying to make sense of what the thoughts are over time, and not a finalized, well, here's the product and we're out of here. Because this climate resilience will be an issue forever. And it shouldn't be a definitive Bible of what we should do. It should be something that changes constantly with how everything else in this world is changing. And I think we should make it so that if somebody who is a resident of Westport, or somebody who wants to invest here or move here, can look at certain aspects of this report and not try to wade through the whole thing to try to get information about what's happening. If somebody's concerned with sea level rise, they should be able to go to that and see how it would affect where they're proposing to live or do live. If it's to do with health, I think that's an overreaching thing. But I just think to make it accessible to people who could use the information, you need to make it, I think, compartmentalized and something that is can change over time as we get more information.
Thank you, David.
Well, I'm following up on both of those. The original MVP report that Bill Napolitano led us through was, what are your most urgent problems? And once you've identified those, what can you do about them? And I think there needs to be a time framework in this too. What are the most urgent things that we are facing? And let's take those, some part of our groups anyway, be working on answers to those questions. And then we also have longer term things that we can come back and work on. But if we're going to reach out to the community, we don't need to be talking about 20 years from now. We need to be talking about what we need to do over the next 1 or 2 years. So I think it needs to have that kind of time dimension of urgency as well as the more general framework. Thank you.
Michael Burris.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think everything everyone has said is so far is really on point. Michael Yogman, to answer your question a little more specifically, I think that the audience is going to be a little bit more general, aimed at residents of Westport, but we also want to have enough information for local decision makers to craft future policy. And we want these policy recommendations to be established because this is a good opportunity to have a platform to set, define those problems and use that as a platform to get grant funds to actually implement them. So it's always good to have that documentation for kind of outside viewers. It doesn't have, we're not trying to get too technical with this document. But yeah, it can help us bring in money to help solve some of these problems. So,
thanks, Michael. Lauren, you're on mute, but your hand is up.
Hi. Thank you. I'm probably one of the only people in here that didn't receive this. I'm just looking at it now, but I think visually it looks great. I think it stands as goals now. I mean, visually what you can see, just me looking at it, is that obviously the goals and actions for 3 of the categories are empty. And so the other thing is I'm hearing you talk about different committees. So the one question I also had, so question number 1 about the committees is, how do you find out about what the names of your committees are? And then visually, since I heard you have an agricultural committee, shouldn't an agricultural committee be one of the categories? How many committees do you have?
So Lauren, that's a great question, and I'll tell you the committees, and then if you're interested in serving on one of the committees, then you can tell me at the end of this, and we will make that happen. So the committees, there is and you can see on the agenda they are listed, because the next thing we're going to do is have committee reports. So you'll learn a little bit more about the committees in the committee reports. But engagement and fundraising is a committee that is what it says it is. It's about engagement. Then there are subject matter committees. Water, which deals with the issues under this report. When we put the subcommittees together, we could have come up with any number of ways to tackle it, because climate change, is a big issue. But this is the way we did it. Water, and then another subcommittee is infrastructure and public safety. Another subcommittee is health. Another one is agriculture. Another one is historic structures. And you can see that Michael Burris did not mimic exactly those subcommittees in the way he did this. For example, agriculture, and you know how important agriculture is to Westport, a right to farm community, is underneath natural resources, but it also includes fishing and shellfish, changing landscapes. So that's what I mean, that that the subcommittees will be affected by this report, and the subcommittees will also change this. They will change each other, and that's what will be a cool process. Now, the format of the people who work on this are, we have formal committee members who get named by the select board. And, you know, if you want to be a formal member, terrific, that can happen. You get nominated and the select board nominates you to the Climate Resilience Committee. I don't really care whether you're just a guest at a meeting or a formal member, you know, with a badge and, you know, a certificate. Everyone is welcome, and all thoughts are, you know, worth whatever the thoughts are worth. And same with the subcommittee. If you're interested in any of those subcommittees, then tell us which ones you're interested in, or which one you're interested in, and you can participate in it. And you can do that now, or if you're shy and say, well, I don't want to tell all these people what I'm interested in, you can tell Amy or tell the chair. You'll find out who the chairs are as we go through this agenda, and you can say, I want to work on the water subcommittee, or I want to work on agriculture, you know. And
perfect. I think that's awesome.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think David was right. David Cole, you know, when he says like this is a 1 to 2 year thing, it would be great to try to figure out how to get this, roll this out right away and visually make it more appealing and act as a framework for within, and then also visually appealing from people looking from outside, and try to attract more people like me that want to maybe help. And as far as the committees, part of me wants to lean toward whatever committee needs the help, but obviously like natural resources and land use and water seem to be interesting to me, but also historic structures. So, I mean, I'll hear from the committees, and thank you for the wonderful explanation.
All right, well, let's get on with Michael Burris. Go ahead.
Oh, I think you kind of covered what I said, or what I was going to say. As this plan gets developed, there may be some topic areas that would be a chapter that gets so much content that it needs to be dedicated to its own section, and perhaps vice versa. This document is malleable and subject to change as things get developed.
Okay, let's get on with committee reports. The first one is engagement and fundraising. And there, I know one of the topics is a change in leadership. The current chairman hasn't done a very good job, so we're replacing him. Oh, that's not the reason, is it? No.
Well, I'll say that the successor has done a much better job, and he's really on top of everything. So I'm recommending that Jeff Panton take over the leadership of this committee. Thank you.
Yes, I was voluntold by David.
well, David Cole has been excellent at getting this off the ground, and Jeff Canton is an able successor. And Michael Burris, I think, said what needs to happen, I guess, is the engagement and fundraising subcommittee needs to meet and then go ahead and vote that change. But I don't think you'll find any objection among any of the Climate Resilience Committee to that change in command.
Right.
Is there anything else you guys want to report on and from your committee's work?
Yeah, I'll make it brief. I guess the Climate Resilience Committee, kind of had its coming out party. We had our first sanctioned official public engagement opportunity at River Day a few weeks ago.
In the rain.
In the rain, luckily, a reasonable number of people braved the rain, including members of this committee who helped us there. But I just wanted to let everybody know that in preparation for that, we did get a banner printed up. It's a nice, durable, fabric-based banner that can go on a tabletop or be hung from a podium or something like that. Climate Resilience Committee, helping Westport in the face of a changing climate. I think that's the theme. And we also put together a 2-page handout, really just some basic information about the committee itself and the subcommittee structure, the kind of issues that each subcommittee is looking into. The idea being to give people, Westport residents, a taste for, how broad and holistic a look we're taking at this. A few facts about what we might know about climate change and how it could affect Westport, mostly from the trustees report. We did interact with a number of people there. I think the takeaways are that there's an appetite for this information. People were not aware that there was a Climate Resilience Committee. They were interested in what we're doing. They were happy to hear that there's people looking at it. And, I think that it's a small but good sign that we will be able to get a lot of interest and engagement at further events and venues.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions, Michael Yagman?
Yeah, I just want to commend Jeff. I just think he really did a lot of work to put this together, and he's a little more optimistic than I am. Our table was about as far from the center of events in the rain as it could be, and I don't think we had a lot of visitors to our table, but it just highlights the challenge of creating, more public notice about our presence. But I think Jeff made a great effort, and moving forward.
Thank you, Jeff, and to all the members who helped staff the table. I appreciate it. All right, anything else from engagement? Thank you all very much. Next, water. I know, Mike Sullivan, you guys have been doing land office business.
Yeah. No, we've met obviously several times throughout the year. We just had a meeting last week. Actually, last week we met in person. A couple people came in over the Zoom, but we met in person here. I'm at the River Center, the Westport River Watershed Alliance River Center. So that was kind of nice to see people in person. But we're working on a draft of our little microcosm of Michael's report here, where we've tried to identify the big drivers that are out there that are pushing these issues, and how they might apply to Westport, and what, brainstorm what the biggest problems are. And we've brainstormed what we think might be the first steps towards, it's not necessarily solutions in most cases, but areas of further study. So we're probably, I don't know, we might be 75% through our work, and hope to have a report probably by the fall.
All right. Better to meet at the River Center than in Vermont.
Yeah.
All right. Good work on that, Michael, and to your committee. And you had 10 or 12 people there. Continue to be engaged in that work. You've got really good outreach going on. Infrastructure and safety. I don't see anyone from that committee present. But I know Bob Dahler's doing a lot of work in that. So we will, right? There's no one on that committee here, right? Okay. Health. Anyone from health? No.
Well,
agriculture. It's a tough time of year from agriculture. We do, under other business, want to appoint Joseph Inglesby to the Agriculture Subcommittee. And I think Joseph has been to a couple of meetings of the Ag Subcommittee, and I think, at one of the meetings of the Ag Subcommittee, we had about 6 or 8 people. And so, so I think we've got potential there. And the other thing I would report is that I reached out to Fred Dabney, who is one of the founders with me of CMAP. And while he lives in Dartmouth, he is still very active in CMAP, to see whether we might get CMAP to provide technical assistance to our Ag Subcommittee on the theory that if we do a good report, it benefits not just Westport, but Dartmouth, Tiverton, Little Compton, the whole region. And I know when Ray Elias showed me the Harvard report on climate change, not Harvard University, the town of Harvard. I read it and I said, you could just take the word Harvard out and put in Westport, totally plagiarize the report. And it would be a great report on resilience and climate change from an agricultural standpoint. I mean, the issues aren't so finely tuned that they pertain to Westport and Westport alone. And so I think Fred Dabney had contacted CMAP and said there is interest by them in helping us out. I just haven't had the time to follow up with them. I think Fred and I can go, and there's a new director there, and talk to her about how they might help out. And I know Ray Raposa, our chair, thinks highly of CMAP, and it's he's in a busy time of year. But Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wondered, John, if you know whether CMAP has a climate program or research activities, or have an idea.
I think, I haven't been involved in with them in a long time, even though I helped start them. So I don't know that just yet, but they are interested, and I think they have, their former directors now head of the Farm Bureau, so they have tentacles that can be very helpful.
Yeah, I would think, in terms of outreach, if they were somebody local that the farm community is tied into, if we could get them involved in doing some of our outreach events, bringing a speaker in or something like that, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. All right, so that's agriculture. Wendy, historic structures. You're on mute, Wendy.
Sorry.
There you are.
So I have to confess that we have not really gotten going yet. Kit Wise and I have met and talked about what we might do, and we got a lot of help from David Cole and Betty Slade as to who else might be interested in. And Kit who's an architect who's done a lot of work, particularly on historic houses in Westport, has said that he would, I guess, Michael, it would be helpful maybe if you could give him some help on this, but that he would sort of do some mapping of historic structures in Westport that are in the flood zone, so we kind of know where the properties at risk are. But I don't know whether you all saw this, or have seen this, but a few years ago, the Newport Restoration Foundation sponsored a workshop called Keeping History Above Water, and it was tremendously popular and very helpful. And they have subsequently worked with a number of communities, like I think 8 communities, who are also threatened, whose historic treasures are also threatened by sea level rise and climate change. And they've sponsored Keeping History Above Water workshops in Charleston, South Carolina, Annapolis, Maryland, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, a California community, and a bunch of others whose names I can't remember where they all are. But I know a lot of those people, so thought that I'd try to tap into the work that has been done through those Keeping History Above Water workshops and see if we can pull together some information that would be instructive or helpful to us in Westport. And I think, John, maybe in our conversations, you've suggested that we might look a little more broadly at Dartmouth and some of the other nearby towns that also have similar issues. But so that's what we're supposed to be doing. I confess that I've been a little busy with other things and haven't gotten going yet. But we'll do it. We'll get going. And we, in talking with David and Betty particularly, I think we felt like it would probably be helpful just to convene people that we think are interested and concerned about this subject, and just sort of share information and ideas as a way to get started, but not necessarily have a committee, or have them on a committee, or have a big committee. But we could do some focus groups or.
Well, I think, Wendy, that you have the advantage, several advantages on your committee. One is you have in yourself and Kit and I think Sean Leach is on your committee. You have some real expertise. I mean, you all are nationally recognized for your expertise. And secondly, you have a narrow focus. And third, it's important. It's not just buildings, it's, you know, graveyards, it's structures like, you know, the river walls at head of Westport, it's dams, you know, it's all the kinds of structures, buildings and otherwise that as happened in so many places, you know, at Jamestown and in Virginia, people built near the water. That's what they did, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
So,
and so it's a common thing. And so you want to build on the knowledge, as you've said, in Newport and Portsmouth, New Hampshire, of people who've gone before us and steal every good idea that they've come up with. So yeah. I know you'll do that. And I know because you're a proper historian, you'll do all that with attribution. But anyway, thank you for recognizing that's an issue that needs addressing in the historic town of Westport. Phil Weinberg has joined us right on time. Phil, thank you for being with us. We're on committee reports. You're on mute. Do you want to say anything about health?
So, John, I think Michael Burris raised his hand during.
Oh, sorry, Michael. Yeah, go ahead.
That's all right. Wendy, I just have a quick question for you regarding helping Kit with mapping. Does he need help with GIS work?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. We can overlay the flood zones with historic structures, and we could also do different scenarios with sea level rise too.
Perfect. Fabulous. Thanks. I'll connect the two of you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Phil, thanks for joining us. You want to say anything? We're at the end of committee reports on the agenda, and we skipped over health because we didn't have anyone from health. But is there anything you want to report?
First of all, I apologize for being late. I was just called out of town and just came back. No, actually, we've been on hiatus. I know Michael has been doing, work related to mental health issues, which we appreciate, but the committee hasn't really come together as a committee. So maybe if it gets hot enough, we'll start looking at the extreme heat issues, but so far we haven't.
Okay, that's okay. So where we are now is we've completed the subcommittee reports. Other business, can I get a motion to appoint Joseph Inglesby to the Agricultural Subcommittee?
So moved.
Michael Yagman, second by Mike Sullivan. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's great. Now, Michael Burris.
I think Michael wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just might, an update to the committee. I think we, and you were part of it, we had a very nice meeting with the some of the high school students, and then a follow-up with the school superintendent at lunch to talk about mental health of children. And Donna had me give a talk. We did a talk together on perinatal depression and anxiety at the high school. So
great.
Things to on behalf of the health committee to follow up on what Phil just mentioned.
Fantastic, Mike. Thank you very much for that. All right. All of which kind of originated out of a meeting with the environment club at the high school. Thank you. All right. So other business, we've done the one thing listed, but Michael Burris, you wanted to talk under other business about grants.
Yeah, so a couple months ago, we applied for the MVP 2.0, which is a grant program that lets us revisit our resilience priorities and get more involvement of the community. And I got notice today that we were selected for funding. So we're going to get a $95,000 award for that. I was out of the
Wait a minute, would you repeat that? Anytime there's good news, I think it's always good to say it twice.
We are being given $95,000 for updating
maybe
them
3 times
essentially. So, yeah, so that's great.
Michael, what's the purpose? What's the purpose?
So the purpose of the MVP 2.0 is to take a look at our initial municipal vulnerability plan, revisit those priorities, and then do a wider public engagement process to get more of the community involved. So it's the program really emphasizes social justice, and if you have any environmental justice communities within your town, they'll help you do outreach and engagement with those communities, or try to bring in other voices that aren't commonly heard through these kinds of processes.
Well, congratulations. That is really good news.
Yeah, so I just got notice about it. I was out at the office most of the afternoon, so I'm sure the next steps are some paperwork and some initial meetings with their staff. So I'll update you all when I have a little bit more information.
Okay. All right. That sorry, Jeff Canton and David Cole. So Jeff, you go first.
No, that's great news for us, and thanks, Michael, for putting that together. Just from reviewing the application and the program and meeting with Courtney, I think some of the next steps are probably going to be we have to put together an RFP for an outside vendor to assist with the training. Is that right? And so
I think they have pre-qualified vendors. I'm not totally clear on exactly how that selection process works. It's in the email they sent me. I haven't had time to review it yet.
Yeah. Some of that money goes to hiring an outside contractor to help us with that training and engagement. And then, am I right that there's a nice chunk that's kind of no strings attached, we can use for whatever kind of project we want?
Yeah, I think it's so the whole process is the grant program is a 2-phase grant. So the first phase is revisiting those vulnerabilities and doing the engagement piece. And then there's a seed grant at the end of the project that, as you identify new priorities through their engagement process, you'll be able to use the seed grant funds to fund a project that addresses some of those new priorities. So I think I can't remember the split. I think it's 45. Well, actually, I think we got more money than I was initially expecting from the grant program. So I'm not sure what the split is, but yeah, I'll let you know about that.
All right, good. David Cole.
Well, I just wanted to bring our attention. This is a climate resiliency committee, and we're mostly focused on what we can do locally to be resilient to climate change. And generally, we don't have much opportunity to do anything to mitigate climate change. But what we have happening in our front yard right now is one of the most significant efforts to address climate change in terms of the offshore wind development. And I think you've been seeing things in the newspapers and elsewhere, but the facility that's been set up by Vineyard Wind over in New Bedford is just mind-blowing. And I've been over there half a dozen times just looking at it. And this afternoon they had an open house from 3 to 5 to come and learn about what they're doing. And so I did that and met with one of their outreach persons, and they're building their infrastructure and their on-base site on Barnstable, where they're going to bring the power of ashore. They've avoided the kinds of stuff that's going on in the Sakonnet River and Portsmouth, and they've got that all worked out, and they've done things with the town to help make that acceptable. They've already got 6 foundations in place out in the water of the 66 that they're going to eventually have. They're hoping to start generating power and bringing it on shore from the initial offshore wind turbines by sometime this fall. And so that is happening, and I think it is very exciting. So I just want to bring to your attention and let you go over to the New Bedford shoreline to look for the biggest cranes in the area and follow them in, and it goes to the clean energy site that the state has there. That's the base for carrying on all these operations, and just have a look and go in and meet the people. And one of the things, they have a person on every ship that goes out that is an observer for any impact on endangered species. So they are trying to address the environmental issues, and on every ship that goes out to any way service any of those facilities, there's somebody there looking at the environmental consequences and trying to avoid to shut down if there's ships in the area, and to or to slow down boat speeds to whatever is necessary to try to mitigate or minimize the environmental consequences. So I just think they're doing a great job, and we ought to be appreciating it and supporting it and seeing that it doesn't get fouled up by local opposition to constructive works. Thank you.
Thank you, David. The other meeting I had today was I chair the New Bedford Ocean Cluster, which works with Vineyard Wind to promote offshore wind and to increase the amount of local jobs that they produce. So appreciate that you went to the open house and that you spread the word about all of that. I saw Bob Daler is here, and we've been through reports of committees, Bob, and didn't have anyone from infrastructure and safety. I don't know if you want to say anything about that committee, Bob. You're on mute. Still on mute. There you go.
I'm sorry. I thought the meeting was at 6 o'clock. I've been running a little late today. I don't have anything to report other than I'm doing a piece on groundwater with the water subcommittee. I don't have anything else to report.
That's okay. All right. So the only person we haven't heard from, and he had his hand up for a while, but I'm going to call on him, is Bill Napolitano, who may have been involved in the first MVP. I'm not sure. He was certainly involved in the outreach. I don't know whether we've scared you off, Bill, and you'll never appear before another CRC meeting again in your life, or whether this is intriguing enough that we might see you again, although we haven't seen you this time. We just see this big B. But any observations you want to make, any questions you have?
No, I think all of this is great. And I was going to say congratulations, Michael, on Burris on the grant, because it's really an opportunity. One of the motives behind doing this, the MVP 2.0, was to really increase the reach of the core committee that put together the original MVP plan, to go out and touch all the corners of the town, all of the population, make sure it's represented. It's one of the things that, we tried to do when we were doing the original MVP, is meet the people where they live and then plan like you live there also. even, come in as outside consultants, and then you plan with them and not at them. And I think that's why in Westport, David referred to it before, and John, I know you were there, and a bunch of other people. Phil, you were there. Jim, I just think everybody on the screen probably, but you came up with some great things. And I've been looking over the materials that you guys have produced, following up on the MVP and going into the grants rounds and everything. And there are so many opportunities there. And the things you've been talking about today is going after the low-hanging fruit as well, which, again, Michael, this would be a great opportunity for you to come up and prioritize projects. You have a nice format, nice structure there that you're proposing for a plan. And we did similar things. You probably talked to Helen about it. I don't know if she mentioned it, but the Assawamsett Ponds, the same type of thing. You ferret out projects and prioritize them, and then you go after the low-hanging fruit, and you're conscious of the things that you have to do to meet the immediate needs of the town, to try to create a stewardship ethic and awareness of just what climate change is and what the potential impacts of climate change are. And then in the longer range portion of the plan, promote that stewardship. And that's why you engage everybody in the community. I was glad to hear about going to the high school and talking to kids about, the mental health impacts, probably associated with the shutdown as well as climate change. These kids are thinking about a lot of things. And you can go even younger too, because I think the plan you're probably going to put together ultimately with this group, Michael, is going to be probably a 30-year plan, 30 years or more. And everybody here, it's going to be Michael's plan and his generation and the people who follow them. And I think that's what, we can do collectively. Maybe a lot of us have years of experience, and we can help and kind of help ground things and put things in order and reach out where we have contacts, like David Cole was just talking about, and John, what you were just talking about, and cement those ties and give these contacts and that information over to the crowd that's going to be putting together this plan, and forge long-term lasting relationships are going to help us kind of collectively address what we're facing with climate change and how we can do it as a community and, meet every problem in every corner of the community. So that's going to be great. The MVP 2.0 will be a great opportunity to even use that as an outreach for all these subcommittees that you have. Show people that you are thinking about it, that you've organized subcommittees around the issue, and now you want to plan with them and go out and engage them through this process. That's what it's all about. So kudos to you guys. And no, John, I'm not scared.
All right. Well, I hope, Amy, that we have Bill's contact information so that we'll invite him because, Bill, you are a tremendous resource with what you know about Westport, what you know about the process. So you are welcome at all these meetings. We'll make you an honorary Westporter and hope to see you at future meetings. Is there any other business? For those who joined late, our next meeting is going to be the 28th because the second Thursday, the 14th, is a meeting of the Water Subcommittee. So we will meet the last Thursday of the month, the 28th, and there was some discussion whether it should be at 5 or 6. And we're going to, in sending out to the membership, which is about 21 people, we will ask the members whether they prefer 5 or 6, and we'll see. I hope there's like a large majority for one of those times or the other, and then we'll use that information to set the time. If there's no other business, would someone make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, John, you forgot to mention it's the 28th of September.
Sorry. Yeah, 28th of September, 2023. Thank you, David. Give complete information. Good idea. 28th of September this year.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
So
Thank
moved.
you. Michael Yagman, second. All those, any discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.